All right, other features that we might want to study on our site are planting communities or planting transitions and places where materials like planting and paving come together. Sometimes I like to study this in plan and section at the same time. I'm just gonna use that to hold down my edge. I always have a couple rulers while I'm drawing. So I'm going to say that I have a site. There's a path on my site that I've selected that runs through near to where the industrial buildings are, kind of in between where the residential and the industrial buildings are. And it's actually part of the Trans-Canada Path. And in plan, I think if this is like my site plan here, and we have, you know, the water, I can't remember exactly how it goes, it's something like that, and I have all these like circular buildings here, and then the, you know, residential stuff is starting down here. The path runs, it kind of goes like here, and then it dips up and goes in between those buildings. And maybe I want to take a bit of a detail here where I'm in between two different planting types, and I also might want to take another detail over here where I'm right beside this like industrial lands with planting on the other side. So if I'm thinking about that in plan, I could just do a really quick sketch. Let's say this is where my path runs through. And it's a multi-use trail, so I'm gonna say it's around about 3.5 meters wide-ish. On this side, we have a lot of invasive species that are coming onto the edge of the path. So I'm going to just kind of outline the chunk of my plan that I'm looking at. On this side, it's more of a successional forest atmosphere, and it's fading off into parkland. So the first part is kind of a mixture of wood chips and grasses and ground covers. And then we have a layer of like woody plants and herbaceous plants that are going on beyond that. And in there we have a bunch of ferns. And over here, we're fading off into thicker ground covers that I didn't identify, but there's some trees over here, some larger trees. And on this side, we have the tree line starts quite further back, and the trees are a lot more small because I think that they've been chopped down by the industrial areas. So some multi-stem trees, which are indicating that there's like a lot of deciduous trees over there. So now we can again use our marker to outline the things that are important. And I think in this one the darkest things will be the tree trunks. So that's what I'm going to use my marker for. I'll use my next level of marker to delineate these planting zones. I might use a kind of a hatch to sort of show that this is a different material than the other ones. If you wanted to, you could just put a little legend over here that said invasive species. I'll use that to define this edge a little bit better. Maybe I'll use it to do these ferns. So I'm going to do you see how I can just use different patterns either by dashes or dots just to delineate these different areas. And then I'm going to make this a big thick one to say it's really ground cover. I can add in some canopy around these trees. These ones are quite large. I have a pretty nice plan detail of just a little interface between different materials and their transitions. So these might seem like pretty mundane details to you, but these are the types of details that we're looking at in landscape. Now there's a few things you could do if you guys are interested. You can always go in with different colors of pencil crayon and just kind of shade in the different elements. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Maybe we want to just differentiate between these different types of green. I have this mulchy area here. You can always go over things if you feel like they need to be emphasized more. Alright, we want to go over our legend. We can just match up our same hatches. Okay. Now we could also take a section here if we wanted to. And if we're drawing references in plan and section, we always want to make sure we show where we are looking at our section. So let's say we're going to take a mark here through this area. We draw two big thick ticks like that, and then connect them, the line, like that. You might label it AA. Now, this is a very basic level in lesson in projection. So if we want to project this plan up to a section, all we want to do is note where our cut line intersects with the plan and project some lines up. You can start by having a zero line, and that can be sort of a baseline for you to get all the rest of the heights. So I know this is my trail. It's probably made out of asphalt. Asphalt's usually around 10 centimeters thick. And then we have this ground cover, and the ground is actually sloping down, so I'm going to draw it like that. sloping down towards the industrial area. On this side we're sloping up, so we kind of have this mulchy area here, then we have like kind of more transitional stuff, and then we go into thick ground cover. It's going up like that. If I had to guess where the actual ground line was, I would say it's probably somewhere around like that. Now we can just go in with our next level of pen and fill in some of those outlines. We're going to still match up some of these trees. For example, this guy right here. So we have a couple stems coming up. Yeah. And then we got some over here. We have a fern. That's my fern. Tree stem coming up here. And yeah, you can feel free to color code it as well if you want. Oops. So you see I'm just drawing all on the same page. You can see all the construction lines. My notes are all over the place. My key plan is now covered completely, which is fine, because if I wanted to, I could reproduce it over here and just say this is where I'm doing my sections, or I can just delete it. If I delete it, I mean erase it. I've been working digital for too long. Now, the handy thing about these projection lines is that we can now use those as sort of definition lines for our dimensions. So we can begin to say, you know, X dimension from there, 3.5 meter multi-use trail. Maybe this is 1 meter of something, 1 meter, etc. So having your plans and sections projected off of each other is a really great way to see things in different sizes and scenarios, and also to just sort of use those lines as a way to match up your measurements. So I'll call this planting transition detail, not to scale. Everybody see that? I hope so. Okay, I'm gonna tear this guy off.